Welcome to Season 3 of Creatively Speaking. I'm your host, Leanna Weller-Smith, the founder of Weller-Smith Design. In this episode of Beyond the Binding, I chat with Stephanie Moon, a cookbook marketing expert. From leading campaigns for New York Times bestsellers, securing partnerships with brands like San Francisco Public Library, and securing coverage on Oprah's coveted holiday favorite things list, Stephanie's experience and insight prove invaluable during our discussions about all things book marketing. In this episode, she dispels myths about publishers' roles, empowers authors to drive their own success, and offers actionable strategies for building robust online brands. This episode is full of helpful tips for authors hoping to master the art of marketing their book. Join us as Stephanie unlocks the secrets of effective promotion, emphasizing authenticity and strategic planning. Let's get started. Hey, Stephanie, welcome to Creatively Speaking. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Hi, Leanna. I'm so excited to be here too.
We were talking a couple minutes before we started recording, and I had mentioned to you that I feel like I already know you. I actually came across you and your work the first time through the Everything Cookbooks podcast. So you did a session with them, and you were talking about cookbook marketing specifically. So I was on that call, and I've been following you ever since. And one of the things that I found just very enlightening and refreshing is that I feel like I know you because of the content that you put out there. You're very real. You give real advice. You're not trying to make things easier or harder. That's why I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Well, thank you. And that was such a fun class for me to give for Everything Cookbooks. It's such a great podcast.
Oh, they are amazing. I love all the episodes. They have such great guests on there and they ask really good questions. So I have a lot to aspire to. But before we get too far in, I would love for you to just give an introduction to yourself. Tell our listeners who you are and what you do.
So I got my start right after college in publishing, and I was so lucky to get to work at some really great and big publishers, always in marketing and publicity. And because, as I'm sure everybody knows, publishing is always kind of understaffed, I got to do so much in my time there. And so I've worked a lot in kids' books, a lot in lifestyle, cookbooks, and adult nonfiction. And so I did that for many, many years. And then a few years ago, I started my own business because I just found that authors would feel like disappointed almost like when their book came out because they were like, how come nobody's buying my book? And I'm like, it's because nobody knows you have a book. Your book is amazing, but people don't know who you are and people don't know that you wrote a book. And so my goal and my passion is to help these authors who have spent so much time, so many resources, so many hours making this book, having them actually get the book into people's hands so readers can read it and enjoy what this author has created.
Yeah, that's always the one piece of the puzzle. We work with a lot of self-published authors. We're very fortunate in that a lot of them, they already have platforms. So I'm talking 75 to 300 to 750,000 followers. They have the platform, but there's still that element of marketing the book and understanding when to start, what to share, because that's a different business model. Food blogging is not necessarily just marketing, right? So it's like putting on this other hat that they have to kind of do.
Yes. And I will also say so many authors, whether they're like self-publishing or going the traditional route, when I think they first like sign up to be an author, they're like, I'm going to be an author. I'm going to like write my book in a lake house. Or if they're doing the cookbook, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to just like make all these beautiful recipes. But really the creation part of the book is only half the process. The other half is marketing, promotion, sales, right? Because for me, it's like after so long, I want to just say to the author, don't you want the book to get onto people's shelves, be brought into their homes because it's your story?
Yeah. And I think even in your introduction, you were mentioning too, I think a lot of authors, especially the traditionally published, they do feel like they can lean on the publisher for a lot of this. And it's unfortunate, but they really can't. There's only a certain amount of work that the publisher can put into it. There's still a lot that's leaning on the author.
Exactly. And, I still do work for some publishers, and the publisher's marketing team is so busy, but what they're doing is like invisible to the author and like different than what the author is doing with their own platform or in their own marketing efforts.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost like they're getting a wider reach because of the publisher, but then they still have to do their own to get that second level of visibility, I'd say. Right.
Exactly. Because the marketing department is really working with the sales reps to get your book into stores like Barnes & Noble, like Target, like independent bookstores, Anthropology, right? And those are all relationships that the publisher has with the retailer. And then as an author, what you're really doing is trying to help sell the book once it's at the store. So you're trying to help get that sell through, right? You're trying to have your community go to their Barnes & Noble and buy your book, or their Target and buy your book.
Yeah, I think just that sentence right there that you had said, it makes so much more sense to me. And it also actually makes me think of things that I can tell my authors, because as I had mentioned to you earlier when we started, we work with a lot of self-published authors. However, we do have some that enter the hybrid realm where they actually have the hybrid arm that allows for them to get traditional distribution. As a self-published author, they can still get into the bookstores. They can still get the wide distribution online, which is very rare for a self-published author to do. But then what you said, it makes so much sense that yes, the publisher, the hybrid, they are getting you there, but it is your job to get the people to the store to buy that book from the store.
Exactly. It's your job as an author to get that customer to pull it off the shelf and bring it to the register.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think for traditionally published authors, a sale doesn't really count towards your royalties until it's sold through to that last end consumer, right?
Yeah. Because yes, they can easily buy it on Amazon, but especially for our hybrid clients, if they're paying the money, because that's what it comes down to, they're paying the money for someone to place their book, then they should really be hustling to get those people that they already have as a part of their community to actually maybe step the convenience of receiving it via mail and just make that trip to Target or to Barnes & Noble or their local bookstore that's holding it, or ask for it, I guess, too.
Yes.
So I'm curious, do you work with all traditionally published authors, or have you worked with some self-published authors as well?
Yeah, I work with both. I think that self-published authors, you know this, the landscape for self-publishing has changed so much in the past, I would say, 5 to 7 years, basically. I would definitely say before 10, 15 years ago, self-published books were kind of lower quality, or it didn't look as good. You felt like you could tell right away. But then I think in these past couple of years, there's been such a renaissance, I guess, of companies like yours, or just authors who have gotten so savvy, they know how to really produce a good looking book and know that they need an editor to edit their book, whatever it is. They need all these pieces and they've figured out how to do it. So I think self-publishing, could be and is a really great pathway for some authors.
Yeah, I think so too. And especially since a lot of our clients, they have audiences. They are food bloggers. A lot of them, obviously, they're used to putting out the content. They're also used to engaging with their customer and their client. And they've already done their research. They know that if they're going the traditional route, they have to create all new content. They want to repurpose. They want to start with their tried and trues. They know it's been tested. They know their audience likes it. They also know that if they went with a traditional publisher, the advances are probably not going to cover their expenses because they're first-time authors. And there's all these other things. Their royalty rate, they're not going to get a lot of money back on each purchase. So they've done that work for sure. They've already kind of looked at all the pros and cons of both sides. I'm glad that we're able to help them with the experience that I have in my back pocket with working in publishing and design. But this marketing side, I think even for those clients who are used to talking to their customer, they're used to putting things out, they're still afraid of marketing the book. I think they're afraid of being salesy maybe, or doing it too much. So I would love to kind of get your perspective on that. What are those big blockers that people have when they get started?
I definitely think, right, authors feel like they're being too sales. Right? But I'm like, what does that even really mean? And is it too salesy? Is it too salesy to try to sell your own book? Because the other thing I think that authors should remember is that if you cannot get excited to sell your book and talk about it, who's going to do it? Right? Especially if you're going the self-published route. When you self-publish a book, you get to be in charge. You get to choose how the cover is going to look like. You get to choose what the paper is going to be. You get to choose all this stuff. But you're also you're in charge of also sales and marketing. So if you're not selling it, nobody is selling it unless you've hired somebody. I think that's one thing where self-published authors miss or don't know. I think sometimes they think, oh, I'm putting it on Amazon. And I'm like, okay, that's great because that's a place where people can get it. But Amazon has like a million products, like so many millions of products, right? So it doesn't mean that much to put your book on Amazon unless you're driving a ton of traffic. Amazon's algorithm can see that. So it's like, one, if you're not selling your book, nobody is. And two, I also think about that elevator pitch of your book, because the way you talk about your book and the excitement and enthusiasm you have for your book also comes across. Think about a dinner party. You meet somebody at a dinner party and somebody's like, oh, what do you do for a living? What's up? And you're like, oh, I wrote a cookbook. If you stumble on how you describe it, or it takes you 5 minutes to describe it because it's so niche, or you don't even know a summary, you can't explain it quickly, people are going to be like, oh, cool, but then move on. Either talk about something else or talk to someone else at that party. But a really good author is able to say, oh, my book is a Chinese vegan book that's for people who are just trying to learn how to eat more vegetables. Then they'll be like, oh, that's like my sister, or, oh, I would love to see that. Being able to have people remember how you talk about your book is so helpful. Because also that idea of like a personal recommendation is the best sales tool you could have. Of course, being on social media and all these other like strategies that we can talk about if you want are great, but really a personal referral of your book is what's going to sell your book.
I think that is very true. It's like comfortability in talking about this product that you've put so much time, effort, money, everything behind, all the energy. So what does it mean to you? What does this product then mean to you? I know we've had some clients that this has been a dream of theirs. And you can tell not only when we're going through the process, but then after it goes to print and once it's on its way here and how they talk about it, they're exuding this excitement. They feel honored to have the opportunity, even though they've paid for it. They are just so excited. And I think that's what gets the audience excited, like you said.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
When should somebody start thinking about the marketing path?
So that's like a question that I get all the time. To me, it feels like if you are even thinking about writing a book, you should start thinking about marketing it. And I think that a lot of times when people think about marketing, they're like, oh, okay, so I'm going to show a photo and hold up this book cover. And yes, it partially is that. But part of the marketing is finding your audience, knowing where they hang out, knowing what they like, connecting with them, building a relationship with, giving value to them, taking them along your journey. There's so many different parts and steps to really having effective marketing, because I feel like also marketing is such a vague and big term that it should start right now. And I think your clients probably have done such a good job of this, is basically honing in and refining on the type of content that their audience wants and that the audience comes back for. Because any food blogger will know, like, okay, these are my top 3 recipes. Some of them they might have worked super hard on, but some of them just might so random, so out of the blue, but it's just like they know this page on lemon blueberry pancakes. I don't know how it happened, but it gets so many views. Your clients probably know this, but I think that's what other cookbook authors need to get better at if they're not a food blogger already.
That's got to be the challenge, I think, too, for some traditionally published authors who don't have the platform. They're almost then working backwards. The hustle is on now to build that audience and get them prepped to buy the book. Luckily, you have a lot more lead time when you're doing traditionally published.
Also, your platform, how I like to describe it for authors, is it's where your existing community can follow what you're doing and then where new people can find you. So it can be like a mix of social plus in-person events or a newsletter or whatever outlet that may be. It could be YouTube, it could be a blog, it could be a podcast, but it's a way that people can find you and keep up with you. And I can't just be social. It can't just be Instagram or TikTok. Even in the past year, think about Twitter/X.
Yeah.
That's
kind of gone.
Not.
Yeah.
You know, then like TikTok, what if it gets banned?
Right. And didn't Instagram go down in February or something?
It's gone down before.
Yeah.
You know, what if your account gets hacked? My personal account that has not very many followers, and this was, I think, 2 years ago now, it just got hacked one day because somebody hacked it and tried to sell fake sunglasses on it. And it took me, I don't even remember how long to get it back, maybe 3 or 6 months to get it back.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal account. It was not my livelihood of people that you have built and poured so much value into, right? So you need to push them somewhere else aside from just social.
So when you work with clients, where does that relationship start? What do you have them do first even?
So this is an annoying answer. It just depends where they are, what they want, how clear they are on their marketing foundation, how clear are they on who their audience really is. Are they able to readily reach these people? Are they just building their platform? They work privately with a client, with an author. The plan is customized to that because I want to meet them where they're at because it's like a journey, right? It's like a process to get to where you want. So there's no right.
Yeah, everyone's not following the same path.
Yeah.
I get that. What kind of, I don't want to call them insecurities, but what kind of insecurities come up? Or are there any when the author is just getting started? Because I know for me, even with our business, marketing is just daunting. And I feel like, oh, I have to be like this, or I have to post this many times, or I have to reach out to this many people. So I'm sure you're bumping up against that with them.
Yes. So I think two big ones are visibility and like perfectionism. Part of what makes a successful author is you're really good at promoting. You're really good at promoting yourself. You're good at promoting your brand. You're good at promoting your book. And that comes with a lot of visibility. So you can't hide behind the scenes typing away. You have to really be out there. And also I want to caveat that with saying you don't necessarily have to be making tons of videos or whatever, but you do have to be out there in some form or another. So if you don't want to be on social, my question then to you is, how are you meeting people in person? And some people do a really great job of that. But I would say most people probably do it online somehow. So that idea of being more visible. And then the idea of perfectionism. I think that sometimes when people are just, authors are just starting to get online more, they're like, I really want my logo to be the most perfect color. I want this video to be so well produced. And I'm like, part of the hurdle is just kind of doing. The more you do it, the easier it'll get, the faster it'll be, and the better you'll get at it. But also in the beginning, I mean, no one's seeing it. Honestly, if you're following a small, not that many people are seeing it. So it's better to get in the practice of just sharing your ideas, putting it out there so people can start to see it. And I also think that what a lot of people, and I'm sure you as a business owner can relate to, is that marketing takes a long time to be effective. It takes a long time for people to know, like, and trust you and want to buy a book from you or want to follow you, want to feel like, oh, I need to make sure I see what this person is posting. That takes a long time and that takes a lot of touch points. So you have to put a lot out there to give them opportunities to get to know you.
Yeah. It's that long game, right?
It's long. It's a long game, marketing. And I also think sometimes authors or business owners in general sometimes give up. They're like, I made a post.
I don't know if I sold 1 or 1,000. Yeah, from that post. Yeah.
I'm like, you made one post though. You got to continue making posts.
Keep going
consistently for 3 months and 6 months before you really see that traction, right? Pick up. Because you also have to think about, well, how is somebody using social media? Right?
Yeah.
They're doing it while they're waiting in line at the grocery store. They're waiting to pick up their kid. They're watching TV. And how much are they really paying attention?
And how fast it refreshes. That's what I always have to remind myself, which is this is a snapshot in time. It's not sitting there for everyone to see for the next 15 days. It literally is maybe 15 seconds to 15 minutes, and that's it.
And I think along those lines, don't be afraid to reuse stuff. It has a short life almost on some platforms. It's hard to resurface old material. So it's okay to reuse something. And also that helps your audience know what you should be known for, or kind of triggers that memory for them.
Yeah, I think that is great advice to be okay with repurposing, because you feel like you're getting stuck. And if you go back into your collection of B-roll or this or that, like you can always find something to repurpose. I think I need to deem you the queen of B-roll, because your social media, you might be doing something like just walking or picking flowers in the garden, and you've got all these great tips or things that show up. And I think even just people realizing that you don't have to be, like you said, holding the book or this or that. There's so many other ways that you can use that visual content that you're creating just in life, really. Memories that you want to talk about or things like that.
I also think too, B-roll gives people a way, your audience, like a way to relate to you. Because the thing is, what I think audience members really like is when they feel like they really get to know a creator. And you really get to know them because you learn all about them, right? You see their dog, you see their kid, you see their messy kitchen, you see their run, you see all of these other parts of their life. And then that begins to resonate with you because you're like, oh, I have this same kind of dog. Oh, I want to grow some tomatoes. Oh, I'm looking for some new running shoes, whatever. You want to see this creator as a whole person. Because they're not just a food creator. They have a whole life around them that kind of gives them more dimension. Those creators that I think are most popular or successful, right? They show all those different dimensions of their personality and life. And I think there's so many ways you can do it while still being super private about your spouse or your kids or where your kids go to school or the outside of your house. Of course, be safe. But there's still so much that you can do to really share a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So with the people that you've worked with, has anyone done anything different or unique or had results from something that they tried that is a little bit out of the norm? I'm curious if they've approached it a different way.
That's a good question. I think the authors who have been thinking about creative ways to market are the ones that really hit it out of the park. It's kind of like you were saying when the cookbook or their book is like a dream. And so they've just been thinking, okay, I would love to partner with this brand. I would love to partner with this person. I would love to have this collaboration with a restaurant. And I actually worked with an author recently who had these huge grand ideas. And so when we were first talking, I was like, okay, let's see kind of how this beginning part goes. Are these plans going to really materialize? And you know what? They did. It took a little bit longer, but they were able to get the most amazing brand partners on board where they got product donated for some finished book mailings. They got a lot of cross promotion with these amazing brands that have the right audience. They recently did a restaurant collab where they had some of their recipes from their book cooked in restaurants. Amazing. This person also went abroad and did some events internationally. And when I told them about this opportunity, they literally wrote me back and it was like so amazing. I saved the email in all caps. They were like, Stephanie, this is my dream come true with all these exclamation points. And I will say what sets this author apart is this person has been thinking about marketing. How have they been building relationships for probably years before this book came out with just different people in the industry? How has this person added value, I think, to the food creator community, right? It's not all about them. It's not all about me and my book. Right. It's like, how can I support other businesses and creators in this space, right? Because that really matters, I think, especially in the food space. And then also thinking big, putting your dream out there, because I was like, I don't think we've done any international cookbook events, but I'll ask. Let's see if we can do this, right? And so we were able to do it just because this person had that idea. And throughout this whole time, this person has had so much enthusiasm for everything surrounding their book. This person has been so grateful, and this person has worked so hard because they've created extra content. They've worked with extra partners. They've done a bunch of stuff that definitely goes above and beyond. And because of that effort, they were kind of paid back in all of these amazing opportunities.
I think that's awesome. I'm so happy for that author because I think that's really the message behind it is to dream big and to really embrace all the opportunities. Don't think of yourself as either just a XYZ. It's thinking, okay, well, if I could connect with anyone, and let's not say Oprah, because everyone says Oprah, right? So if I could get my book with somebody or this person, what would that look like? I love that 100%.
I think also a cookbook or a book is not the end game. That book can just open a ton of doors. It gives you a reason to reach out to retailers, to reach out to brands, to reach out to people for media coverage, for partnerships, for sponsorships, for all of that stuff. The book is almost like a stepping stone and it kind of levels up your brand, but there's so many more opportunities. That's also what I try to share with authors that I'm working with is, hey, your book is great. It did require so much work, but it is just opening a door to a bunch of other opportunities. So I'm working with this one client who wrote a book that's selling so well, and I didn't start working with them until after the book came out. When we had originally started working together, she just wanted to continue the momentum. But then I was like, okay, so tell me a little bit more about what you want. What's your big why? What's your goal? Is it just selling more books? And they told me these goals. And I'm like, okay, so they were huge goals. It was like, I want to host a TV show. I want to monetize my expertise, and I want to help people. And so how we're doing that is she has started a Substack, and we are working on that together. And that's kind of like book marketing because it started from the book, but it also moves beyond that. It allows her to build her platform so more people can find her and her existing people can keep up with what she's doing.
Yeah, Substack is interesting because it's really building community, and then also just the way that people can recommend it. It's its own little ecosystem in there.
It is, especially for food. Plus, I think maybe it's fashion. It really can move a lot of books, and it can really generate a lot of visibility.
Yeah. So I'm curious, that client, did they happen to already have a blog and then they started a Substack, or is the Substack their blog?
This client is actually not a food client. So
it's a different, right. Yeah.
But did not have a blog or a newsletter. I was like, we need to get on.
So a Substack actually helps
social.
And that Substack, it's kind of like that all in one. It's got all of that built in, and you can monetize the Substack.
You can, exactly. You can monetize.
It's easy.
So, and I think that that's so helpful because creating content is so time consuming.
Yeah.
So people should be paid for their expertise. And her expertise is also very helpful. Plus people want. So people will pay for it.
What I'm understanding when you're working with clients, what you're doing is you're really dialing into their goals, and then you're helping them to find these little pockets of opportunities that could be within their personal market or it's in their realm, but then also just kind of helping them to create a roadmap of, like you said, 3, 6, 9 months of this is where we should be in our flow until either you've launched or after you've launched, that kind of thing.
Yes. So it's about definitely thinking about the book, but then also what else after the book. Marketing is not a one-time event. The analogy I use the most is a lot of authors think about marketing like planning a wedding. They think, okay, I'm just working to my on sale day. I'm just working to my on sale. Okay, gonna have a party. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this for literally for one day or for one.
Yeah.
And that's not the best way to think about marketing, because instead of a wedding where you also spend a ton of money on one day, it's more like meal planning, weekly meal planning. Every week, you got to plan your meals. And sometimes you don't do it, and that's like fine. But when you do it, you feel way better. And you save money, you eat healthier, you just overall feel better, right? And so that's how I want people to think about marketing. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And some things will feel really natural. You'll know at the store, like, oh, okay, I can make 2 chicken breasts for lunch to have on the refrigerator. I know my kids love purple carrots, not orange carrots, whatever it is, right? You know, and you just get better at it so you can do it continuously. Because I also find that a lot of authors want to just like hire me or someone to do the work. Unless you are independently wealthy, that is a very expensive endeavor you're trying to do. Because having somebody create quality content and do all of this in a way that's effective and helpful and done at a good quality is expensive. And since you need to weekly meal plan, aka market the whole time, at some point you're going to stop paying this agency or this person, and then you will have
and then you're at square one again.
Then you're starting from zero. Whereas my philosophy is I want to teach authors how to do this so they can do it forever. Because also theoretically, they're not just going to have one book.
Right.
Because your first book is sometimes like the first pancake. I almost like
a little sticking in there and then you flip.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the process is so long, and in traditional publishing, the process is so opaque. You don't really know what's it going to be like. I literally, right before this, just got off a call with somebody, an author that I'm working with, and she's just like, I've never been here. My book came out. Now what? I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you what we can keep doing, how to keep building the momentum. And after you publish a book, then you know for next time, right? And so then you also know that marketing is continuous. It's not like one finite point.
Yeah. And I've noticed even for our clients, once the book is out and once they've kind of lived with it for a few months, there is that initial push. A lot of our clients do actually do pretty well in their pre-sales as well. They know the demand for it. They're excited when there's like a big mad rush of all these people that are receiving the book, talking about the book. And then they have a couple months with it. They have some time then to start really thinking about, oh, this would be great to go with this holiday, or with this thing that's coming up. Or I have a couple other friends who they are releasing cookbooks. Maybe we can do our own sort of collaborative cookbook event. And some of our clients too are now, like you said, gotten their feet wet with book number 1. Now they're ready for book number 2, and they can be even more intentional about it. And then they have this package of 2 that they can sell. It just kind of builds on itself.
Exactly.
So if somebody, say they've just kind of had a lull, right? And they may have fallen off the wagon a little bit and they kind of slowed down, but they do want to refresh. Are there any tips for somebody who wants to dig back in to bring it back to life that could be low-hanging fruit for them to start?
If it's a blogger and they already have an audience and they haven't talked about it for like 6 months or maybe even a year, they went out strong. They did it for a couple of months. They got tired. The holidays came, whatever. Talk about it again. Pull it out. Pull it out and literally say, I'm making dinner from this. It's from my cookbook. I think that can really work because I also think sometimes creators forget that new people are always finding them. Mm-hmm. And these new people have literally no idea what you did 1 year ago. They are not scrolling backwards in your feed. So just remind them. I think also, is there a way to just kind of incorporate it into stuff that they're already doing? So if they are a food blogger, are they doing a partnership with a big brand that has a giveaway? Could you have a giveaway component for your book? I think there's so many ways to work your book into your existing marketing. Could you just add or refresh a banner on your site that has a picture of the book or that features something from the book? Could you add it to your bio? There are so many.
Yeah, there's so many things. I do have to give our clients, the food bloggers, a lot of credit for that. They are very consistent. Some of them sell behind the scenes, which I think is great for people to also know because they may be selling in their email newsletter and it's just literally oh, did you know we have a cookbook? Here it is. So they're not banging people over the head with it, but it's still like when their next recipe comes out, or a lot of them, they'll have it on the counter if they're in videos. Yeah, there's so many fun things you can do with it.
It's those little things, right? For instance, when you mentioned that in the background, if you had a few cookbooks, you could just have them all displayed since you have a bookshelf in your background, all just displayed there. It's not in your face. It's just like, oh, these are her books, that are on the shelf, but they're actually, when you take a closer look, all the books that she did. There's tons of little things you can do to remind people that you have a book.
I love this. I could talk about this forever because, like I said, even for me, marketing feels like a mystery, but I know that even our team, we're getting better at it and we know we have to talk about things. And I think when it comes to your book or your cookbook, it's an exciting time and people just definitely shouldn't shy away from sharing this. People want to support small business owners. They also want to support people that they follow. Is there anything that I'm not asking that you think that someone listening to this podcast needs to know just about book marketing in general?
You can never start planning too early. I think that is the huge one because, just to be honest, everything takes longer than you think. The back and forth between people, figuring stuff out, life happening. I think that's a huge one. Just start planning. Just have a Google Doc and just have a list of running ideas if your book is still really far out. Yeah, and I think just be excited for your book. It's your story, right? You're putting your heart and soul out. So just be excited about that and be so proud because it's also so hard to produce it.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that for sure.
Yeah.
So what I would love for you to do is just let everyone know where they can find you. I know we're almost at our hour, so I want to respect your time. But yeah, let everyone know where they can find you. I know you had also mentioned that you have a marketing course, I think, or some sort of event coming up. Definitely tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so I can be found at my website, stephmoonco.com, and then my handle on TikTok, Instagram, and I think LinkedIn are Steph Moon Co. Find me there. And then what I did was I have a masterclass called How to Start Marketing Your Cookbook Before It's Done. And I think it's like an hour, but just kind of giving you those foundational pieces for how you can start this process. Kind of like what we talked about today, but more in depth. And then I made a code for your listeners and I put it in the email.
I think it's Weller Smith.
And it's $10 off. So it's normally $39. So it'd be $29. So you can get that on my website. Oh, and I have a list of cookbook author content prompts as well that I sent that we can link in the show notes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. I'm glad to finally meet in person in our own little way. So This has been awesome chatting. And I know that our audience is just going to love this content. So thank you so much for joining me, Steph.
Thank you for having me.